What up guys, welcome to another quick intro video for Gundam Versus, this time starring the GP02 Gundam Physalis. This one was by request. Another great Gundam from the movie Stardust Memory, and one of the few Gundams that actually houses a nuclear warhead launcher. That's pretty interesting, because when I first saw the movie I was like, it actually has a nuke on it? Like, the giant barrel actually fires a nuke, so that caught my attention. And then seeing it in other games like Gundam Battle Assault 1 and 2 were pretty cool. So here in Gundam Versus, where do you find the GP02 Physalis? You can find Physalis in the Stardust Memory tab, as I was saying. And the Stardust Memory tab is kind of hard to find, so if you want to search for it, you might miss it a couple times. I do every time. If you're starting at the beginning at Mobile Suit Gundam, scroll up in the tabs. When you see the giant red X, you know you're near it. Just a couple clicks ahead and there you are. Gundam Physalis is a 400 cost fighting type, so every time you die he will cost 400 points to respawn. A pure fighting type usually means that they have an overabundance in melee damage, but Physalis is a little interesting. I'm curious why they made him a fighting type. Getting into where we always start, which is movement. Physalis has some interesting movement mechanics like the GP01. His R2 or BC on arcade stick allows you to do evasive movements. The most I found you could do were 2 back-to-back, but of course if you add in dash canceling and boost step, you can continue to evade, which is really good for him because you're gonna need to be very mobile when you're playing him. Now getting into the command list basics and what it has to offer. Of course, we have a Vulcan cannon instead of a regular rifle, which is interesting. We have a beam saber, we have the bazooka, we have the charge bazooka, the atomic bazooka, the missile pod, which is on his back, so he has a missile launcher. He can charge up his beam saber to do additional damage. And of course we have the special movements with the R2, which we just covered, and his burst, which also launches the nuke. So getting into what we just saw, the Vulcan cannon on his head does not manually recharge. The charge bazooka will fire a mini AoE. A good thing to note about the Vulcan cannon, it will fire as long as the head can lock on to the target. So about side to side movement is where it'll lock on to, and anything past that it struggles a little bit. You always want to be facing your opponent. L1 is for the missile pod. L2 is for the nuke. It does a lot of damage and covers a large area, so be careful when you use it because you can hit your own teammates. And then of course we covered R2 already, no need to get back into that. Getting into melee, his neutral combo is a 3-hit combo. It does have one addition. If you press forward during your neutral combo, he will go into an interesting shield and takedown attack. His side combo is a 2-hit combo that pops the enemy up in the air, which gives you combo potential. His back and melee throws the beam saber and does a hit. If you charge the beam saber and overcharge it, it'll do a couple of hits. And then we'll get into something else that makes that really interesting later. His forward melee is the kick to the face like we saw with Char. His dashing forward combo is interesting. It has 2 different variations. So if you dash forward and just press melee twice, he slams them down with the shield at the end. If you press left or right with melee after you pop them up in the air with the shield, he will do a slashing stun, which leaves them paralyzed in the air for a brief moment. Another thing to note with his special movements with his R2 is that his R2 can be done with almost every attack. So as I was saying earlier, you want to stay really evasive because of the way his attacks are, and his R2 gives you that advantage. When you activate your gear, your beam saber will automatically supercharge, and it will stay like that the entire time you are in your gear activation. His burst, which is a pretty awesome attack and can hit you if you don't move, just wanted to throw that out there, does a lot of damage and is pretty cool to watch. You can also hit other people with it, but be careful of your teammate also running into it. Like I said, Gundam Seisless does a lot of damage not only to its opponents but to itself and its teammates, and you don't want to lose friends over hitting them with your nuke. Getting into some gameplay tips, I'm not the best at playing GP02. Not really my type of Gundam, but from watching other people like Sky Slam and Minato Versus, you really want to stay mobile. And of course, in Gundam Versus, mobility is key, and knowing your movement animations and knowing how to do all of your boost moves and your boost dives, boost step, doing your fuas and all that stuff, which is shown in almost everyone's beginner tutorials, which I advise you watch. Staying mobile is mostly where the bread and butter is. I mean, you have your charge attack for your AoE. He's really good with pinpoint attacks from what I've seen, mostly staying defensive until you find an opening, and then taking advantage of that opening that the opponent gave you. I don't want to say too much because that's pretty much what he is. I mean, I've already said be careful with your AoEs because you will hit your opponents. Not your opponents, you will hit your teammates. Your opponents will be very wary once they see that you're a GP02 loading into the missions. I mean, loading into the fight. So be careful with that. Most people just run the moment they see you because they're expecting the nuke right off the bat. But he does have really good damage with his melee, and he does have really good evasion. So you just need to get better at the movement basics, and you can actually be pretty good with GP02. As always, if you're a veteran out there and you have some additional tips, maybe some analytics, maybe some fun videos to share of people playing GP02. I know a lot of people in the community don't necessarily like GP02 upon doing research, but I have seen some pretty interesting videos. I'll try to link Sky Slam Versus video with him and Minato Versus having fun with double GP02. That was a pretty awesome video. And as always, leave a like if you like this video and you found it helpful. If you're a veteran, like I said again, and you have some tips for other new players to help them with their love of blowing people up with nukes, as most people do, please leave those in the comments below. And as always, I hope to see you guys out on the battlefield. Peace.